It's Forest 1, Tottenham 0. It's our match review. Another loss, another game where we've dropped points. And I was there in a foggy and freezing cold Nottingham yesterday.
Did you see much?
Not really, to be honest. And I was probably happy not to see much tomorrow as yesterday. Yeah, just another game where we let slip by the wayside. I thought, let's take it back to when the lineups got announced, because I was quite excited when the lineups got announced yesterday. Bentancur back in the team, who hasn't played in a while. A Doggy back in the team. Brennan Johnson starting. And I thought there was going to be a bit of fresh exuberance yesterday. I thought we were going to look a bit more energetic. We definitely dominated the possession, but I think we looked anything but energetic, to be honest.
Well, to be fair, I thought the brightest players were, apart from Bentancur, who I just thought had a bit of a shocker. I think the brightest players on the team were probably Doggy and Johnson in terms of the guys who looked the freshest. I think they were the brightest players on the team, and it's not surprising.
I'm not so sure about that.
Why?
I thought Brennan was, but I thought Doggy started well. But then after the goal, I thought he was pretty much non-existent in the game. A Doggy. I thought he started. I actually said to the guy next to me, the Doggy started really sharp here, and he looked good for the opening 20-25 minutes. But then after that, I thought he put in a bit of a shocker.
Really, I didn't agree with that. I mean, I didn't think he was particularly amazing, but I thought he was one of our brighter players. I thought he definitely looked fresher than a lot of the other players, in my opinion. I thought he was okay. I mean, obviously he let his man go for the goal, but again, it's not totally his fault. But look, obviously Alanka gets away from him and the goal goes in. But I didn't think he played particularly badly. I thought he was on the day. I thought he was one of our brighter players.
What did he do though? Like after the first 25 minutes, I thought that he had no impact in the game whatsoever.
He had no impact in the game. He did as much as anyone. I mean, what did he do? I can't remember every single action, but I thought he looked fresher than
in the opening 20 minutes. Yeah.
No, my point is he didn't look as leggy as some of the other players on our team. Like, I don't think he was particularly amazing. I didn't have too much of a problem with his performance, but I thought he looked fresher than. I didn't think he looked as tired as a lot of the other players did. I think clearly Decky just wasn't at the races yesterday for a lot of it. He had a couple of bright moments, but he looked very tired. Bentancur I know should be fresh. He's coming back after a ban, but he was just not at the races. I don't know if it was rustiness or what it was, but he was on and off the ball, just sloppy and poor, and couldn't catch up with Gibbs White for a lot of it, and was chasing shadows a lot of the time. Spence was okay, but then obviously he ended up getting frustrated with the game and ended up getting himself sent off, which was not great for him. Sarr was very sloppy on the ball, I thought, for a lot of it. And the front three, I mean, obviously I thought Brennan was the one who looked the brightest, albeit all our chances fell to him and he missed some crucial chances. Sonny was getting completely done by Ole Einar. I thought Ole Einar had him in his back pocket. And Solanke just couldn't get any spare change out of Milenkovic and Murillo in the game. It was very, very difficult for all of them. And look, it was a weird one because we started all right. We had a few really good openings. There was that one big opening, I thought, right at the beginning of the game where I think it was from a mistake. We had a 4-on-2 right at the start. And Son, I'm sorry, but he's just got to be making a better decision in that move. He just keeps his head down. He doesn't look up. Brennan is completely free on the right-hand side. He's also got Decky and Solanke in support with him. He decides to then cut inside and just take a tame shot, which is very easy for Sales to deal with. When Brennan was in on goal, plays him in, and it's a one-on-one, and he just didn't pick him out. He just kept his head down, didn't look up, and didn't look for his teammates, and that was a really frustrating moment. And you kind of got the feeling after that moment, like, Forest are not going to give you that many opportunities where you have a 4-on-2 like that during the game, and we didn't take advantage of it when we got it. And turns out that was probably the only time we had another chance like that.
Yeah, it was. It was the only time pretty much in the whole game where we were able to get in behind them. That's the reality. And, Forest at this moment in time is a really hard place to go. So when you get the chances, you need to put them in the back of the net. And we weren't clinical enough yesterday. I thought the midfield was pretty much non-existent yesterday. When you're looking at the likes of Bentancur, Pape Sarr and Kulusevski, I thought all three of them were really poor. Particularly, I was really annoyed with Bentancur's performance because you're looking at a player who's just spent the last 7 games suspended in the Premier League. We finally get him back. Should have been the freshest player on that team yesterday, and he was one of the worst.
Yeah, he was terrible. I wanted him off at half time. I thought he was having a shocker. Every pass that he made led astray. I thought he was being run rings around. I thought he couldn't even get close to foul a player, let alone make a tackle. There was a few times where he picked up the ball. And I know where a Bentancur, who's at his best, would have played a ball forward in between the lines, looking for a line-breaking pass or being confident to stride forward. And there were times where he was under no pressure and he's just playing the ball backwards, like to a centre back. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I know you're better than this, Bentancur. And a lot of the times as well, the ball falls to him and he's trying these volleyed passes forward like aimlessly, and every time he played a pass pretty much it was astray. I don't know what his passing stats were in terms of his accuracy, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're very low.
85%.
But it sounds high, but that's actually quite low for a player in his position. That usually
41 out of 48 passes accurate.
Usually, if you look at like Basuma, he would be like the 90% passing accuracy in that position. A lot of his passes were just very, very sloppy. And each pass I felt that was forward was really, really poor. And a lot of his passes were just backwards. And I thought as well, off the ball.
Weak in the duels as well. Really weak in the duels, Bentancur. And for someone... For a team that's struggling as much as we are with injuries, when the players that are fresh and haven't played so much come in the team, they need to be bang at it and they need to carry the can for a lot of these players that are really tired at the moment. And Bentancur did pretty much anything but that. And he let us down big time yesterday.
Agreed. And
he really did. I thought it was a shocking performance. Like you mentioned, I thought Kulusevski and Son as well were just not at it. I mean, Kulusevski, when Kulusevski's really aggressive, he's winning the duels up against his man. I felt like there was a number of times Kulusevski, particularly in the first half, at the beginning of the game, when he was just holding onto the ball for too long, not releasing it, not passing it, and it was a big source of frustration for me and a lot of people in that away. And Sonny just couldn't do anything when he was on the ball. He went close with that free kick and that chance you had at the beginning of the game where he should have squared it to Brennan Johnson. But yeah, these two players, when you're looking to be incisive and clinical in the final third, you expect it to come from one of those two, and it just didn't come.
To be fair to Decky, his one moment of quality did lead to a good chance, didn't he? I think he beat Nico Williams down the right-hand side with an impressive bit of dribbling, then cut it back to Brennan, whose shot was pretty well saved by Matt Sells. It was looking like it was heading into the top corner. It was a good save. So that was one good piece of play for him, but it was too few and far between. I think you could see he was struggling physically. He was running into players. He just looked very, very leggy on the day from the start. And I think the stats bear that out as well. He was dribbled past 4 times. He committed 3 fouls. He wasn't fouled at all, which is not like Decky. He usually gets fouled quite a lot in the game. He only won 2 out of 16 duels. It was a poor display from him. And I think physically, usually it's a lot easier for him to bully players off the ball and get into good positions using his physical strengths. And on this occasion, it just seemed as though every time he got the ball, he was losing it way too easily, and he wasn't able to shrug players off as easily as he used to, and as he usually does. And he wasn't maybe getting in the positions defensively as we know he can in terms of his running power. He just looked out of sorts yesterday, and it contributed to a really frustrating attacking display for Tottenham, where Forest gave us the ball. They were saying, just look, we've got the lead here, you try break us down, and we just weren't able to do it. Obviously, we're not the first team to struggle against this Forest defence this season. They've clearly had a very good season in that aspect. Nuno's got them very well. He's got them very well drilled. This is a team that went to Anfield and won 1-0. They went to Stamford Bridge and drew 1-1. So this is not a team that is easy to break down. But as you say, like we got 3 good chances out of Brennan. And against this kind of team, especially at the period of the games they were at, you have to take one of them. And in these kind of games, once you get a chance, you don't know when the next one's going to come, because Forest are a very well-drilled defensive team. It's not easy to continuously break them down. And the last good chance came in the second half with Brennan. We couldn't score it, and then that was the last chance we got. And in fact, that last half an hour was way too comfortable for Forest. I thought they were very comfortable in that.
Yeah, they were.
They
were. And even when Bergvall and Maddison came on to really press the issue with half an hour to go. And I don't think Maddison could do anything to break this Nottingham Forest team down. And it felt like the game could go on for another 2-3 hours and we wouldn't score. Like I had no hope that once we went 1-0 down that we could claw ourselves back in the game. I really didn't. It didn't look, apart from the few chances that we had in the game, it didn't look like at all that we could score. and we were just like a complete blunt knife. We were, and it just carries on a theme with Tottenham. We just can't seem to get any sort of points on the board at the moment. We're slipping further and further down the table. Level points with West Ham now, only 6 points above Everton, which is crazy. I think 11 points now behind Nottingham Forest. And it was such a big opportunity yesterday to kind of close that gap to a Nottingham Forest team that are quite far ahead of us. Where you're looking at it when coming into the season, Nottingham Forest were tipped to fight relegation, and we were tipped to fight the top four. I'm not saying Spurs are going to be fighting relegation this season, but when you're looking at where the teams are in the league, this time last season and now, it's pretty much flipped on its head.
Well, look, Forest has surprised a lot of people this season, no doubt about it. Got to give him massive credit. Nuno's doing a phenomenal job.
I think Spurs have surprised a lot of people this season as well.
Well, definitely we shouldn't be 11th. We all know that 11th is terrible. But I think Forest, they've proven to be a very tough nut to crack. They're clearly a very well-drilled team. They spent a lot of money as well, and a lot of people, again, similar to Chelsea, making fun of them for signing all these players. But it seems as though at the moment it's working out for them because they've gotten rid of the ones that didn't work, and the likes of Milenkovic, Murillo have turned out to be brilliant signings. Matt Sells is doing well for them. Elliot Anderson, I think he's fantastic. I think he's done such a good job in that midfield for them.
He ran rings around us at times yesterday.
Hudson-Odoi has been a great signing on the wing. Wood has turned out to be a fantastic goal scorer. To be fair, I actually thought defensively, it's funny how obviously different games cause different problems, but on Sunday against Liverpool, we couldn't contain them at all. Obviously, they're one of the best attacks in the league, and they were cutting us open so easily. I actually thought defensively against Forest we weren't too bad. I thought actually we dealt with Chris Wood very comfortably. He didn't have too much. I thought Gray and Dragoshin dealt with them. I thought obviously Elanga scored, but I thought Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, apart from the goal, were fairly quiet. I thought Spencer and Udogie, by and large, dealt with them fairly comfortably. They had that one shot. I thought Gibbs White was actually the one we were struggling most with.
It was the midfield.
He was the one we were struggling most
with. Our midfield was getting completely bypassed so easily. So easily. I thought the three in midfield were really shocking yesterday. And yeah, Dragoshin and Gray were doing a lot to mop up where they were failing. That's the reality. And I thought Dragoshin was doing really well aggressively up against Chris Wood. Chris Wood pretty much, I barely saw him throughout the game.
This guy got 10 Premier League goals this season. He's having a good season.
But it was an embarrassing display. It really was. Apart from a few players that stood up for us defensively, I don't think anyone had a good game yesterday. And even Brennan, he was getting in the chances and looking the sharp as our attacker. I still think he was very poor on the day. It was like the best out of a bad bunch. That's the reality.
Well, I can't point out a really good performance from anyone really. To be honest, maybe Forster because he made one save, but other than that. Even him, he made one save, that's all he did. I guess the two centre-backs, I thought they did all right. You've got to give them a bit of credit because I thought not an easy game, but, Forest being so high on the table. And they do have some good attacking players, and you still got to deal with them. And I thought Gray and Dragoshin actually did quite well to deal with those players. But obviously, for the full-backs, I thought defensively were okay, but I thought obviously going forward, failed to provide too much. And then, at the end of the day, this game wasn't about what we could do defensively because once Forest took the lead, they just gave us the ball, didn't they? And that was real. Apart from they had a little spell of 1 or 2 minutes in that second half where they put us under a bit of pressure, where Forest had to make a save. Apart from that, they didn't really have any ambition to attack us. They just allowed Spurs to, pass the ball around, try and break down Forest, and we just weren't able to do it.
Yep. And that's the story of the game. And, Spurs are in a really, really bad way at the moment. Really bad way. One win in the Premier League, which comes against a Southampton team who lost their manager on the day sitting at that time they were sitting bottom of the league with 5 points. Our only win in how many games is that now? With Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Southampton, Liverpool, Forest and Liverpool. So 7 games. 1 win in our last 7 games in the Premier League. And even before that, we weren't getting that consistent results where we beat a Man City time, we lost to Ipswich, we beat Villa, we lost to Crystal Palace, we beat West Ham, we lost to Brighton. We've lost 9 games this season. 9 games we're just about at the turn of the year. We're about to play our last game in 2024. And you got to say, 2024 has been an absolute stinker if you're a Spurs fan.
Apparently the audio's out of sync.
Yeah, 'cause
Should be right now.
Yeah, I think the connection's good now. Is it audio all good now, guys? Let us know in the comments.
yeah, so what I was saying is that 1 win in our last 7 Premier League games. Before that, it was win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss when we had, fit players. 2024 has been an absolute stinker for Spurs. It really has. 9 losses so far in the Premier League this season, 12 in the whole of last season where we finished 5th. I mean, we're gonna beat that by a landslide this year. So I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, even injury crisis or no injury crisis, we can't seem to pick up any sort of form.
Yeah, it's we're in the trenches, as they say. We are very much in the trenches at the moment. It's a difficult time to be a Tottenham fan. The way that every week we're just not being able to get any sort of consistent results. It looks like we're losing more and more players by the game. Dragusin's gone down injured. Ben Davis now also had a setback, and it's relentless. It's not letting up. We've just got more and more games coming thick and fast, and we're at the moment, we're not able to cope. I think that's the reality, and I think there's myriad of reasons as well. I think the middle teams like your Forests and all these other teams where maybe a few seasons ago you could go through a period like we are and probably still pick up results, but at the moment it looks like as soon as you have a little bit of a drop off, teams are more ready to pounce on that in this current state in the Premier League than maybe in previous iterations of it, because I think the middle teams have improved massively. I think that's fair to say. They all have good managers, they're all settled, and you have to kind of it looks like you have to be your very best every single week to get wins or consistent results at the moment, and we're clearly not there at the moment.
Well, the reality is we are getting consistent results. We're just getting consistently bad results.
Yeah, I mean, that's since obviously since the all these since we've had
the
10
City
players
win,
out, since we've had all these injuries, the results have been consistently bad for sure. Because there's clearly been a massive drop off physically, I think mentally. We can't. We're in a bad way. We're in a rot, absolute rot, and just got a big job pulling us out of it at the moment because we're slipping further and further down the table. We're losing more and more games. The thing is, we can play manage, we can say all this, but if let's say we change managers tomorrow, does it bring the players back? Does it change anything? Does it mean we start? Does the new manager get results with this team with the under the circumstances?
We don't know, but you could also say that there is a case we don't know. You're going into the unknown, so I can't tell you what's going to happen if a new manager comes in. But you can bring a new manager in that is a bit more adaptable, that doesn't play kind of high octane aggressive football, and it doesn't take so much out the players that maybe it is right now.
Right? Is that what we want?
Is that what we want? I mean, I don't know what we want at the moment, but even without the injuries, we weren't getting consistently good results. So,
yeah,
I mean,
that consistent good results comes when you're a very good team. That comes when you've hit that point where
but it still wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough when we had fit players. We were losing to the likes of Ipswich and Crystal Palace.
Yeah, but it wasn't this bad.
No, of course it wasn't this bad, but still wasn't great.
I think overall performances were pretty good, by and large. I would say it was consistently good performances sprinkled in with some bad ones. Now it's consistently bad performances sprinkled in with some good ones, I guess. That's what I would say.
I would agree with you right at the beginning of the season, but then those worrying performances were creeping in slowly but surely. They were. And at the beginning of the season, you had the Leicester game where you deserved to get more points, the Newcastle game where you deserved to get more points. But ever since that Brighton game, you've seen more worrying traits creep into this side. And I've been saying this to you since that moment. And you're not going to... I don't know what to say to you, because if you can't see it, then you've got these worrying traits creeping into this side, injuries or no injuries. Like, these poor performances have been creeping into this side. They have been. It's a reality.
Yeah, you're not going to be good every game. My point is, when we had a fully fit squad and at the beginning of the season, look, as I said before, we were not the perfect team. We're not going to be title challengers.
No one's expecting us to be title challengers.
But let me finish. My point is, when we had a fully fit squad, right, I think just before the injury crisis, we won 9 out of 11 games, right? We were getting consistently pretty decent performances by and large. Yes, we had some bad games. We were 2-0 up at Brighton and we lost. We lost to Palace. We lost to Ipswich as well. But by and large, most of the performances were actually pretty good.
When are you saying this injury crisis started then?
Probably after the Ipswich game.
After the Ipswich game?
Yeah.
So before the Man City game?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we lost to Ipswich, we lost to Galatasaray, we lost to Crystal Palace, we lost to Brighton, all in the previous 9 games to that.
Yeah, we were not in a great run of form at that point, right?
You're saying we won 9 out of 11. That's 4 losses.
Okay, maybe it was before, what game was it? Before the Brighton game, maybe it was a 9 out of 11.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying when the worrying traits started to creep in. That was after the Brighton game. That's what I keep telling you. Okay.
So we hit a bad run of form, but then the injury crisis hit, right? So it's compounded that, obviously. But I don't. What's your point?
My point is that injury crisis or no injury crisis, worrying traits have been starting to creep into this team, and it's not just this season. It's last season as well.
What are the worrying traits?
The worrying traits is the poor performances against poor sides where we should be beating them. And if you don't pick up points in those games, then you're gonna keep dropping down the table because, like you say, you've got teams in the middle of the road, teams that are getting better and better. And if you don't beat the poorer sides in the league, like a Crystal Palace that hadn't won all season, like an Ipswich that haven't won all season, like being 2-0 up against Brighton at half-time, then you're going to hit that bad run of form when you're not at it completely and you get these injuries and you go on a run like we have. Like, these poor performances before the injury crisis were getting more regular as we were moving into the season, and this injury crisis just made everything a lot worse.
Yeah,
but those poor performances were getting more regular.
Okay, but I would still say even before the injury crisis, it was still more good than bad. That would be my argument. Yeah, they were maybe starting to be more regular, but it was still more. Before that injury crisis, there was still more good performances and bad performances. Now it's obviously flipped. We're on a terrible run of form. We've completely lost our way. We're dropping like a rock. There's no doubt about it. Would that have happened if we weren't in an injury crisis? Who knows? But obviously this is where we're at the moment.
I would say it was 50-50. I don't think it was more good than bad. I don't think it was more bad than good. I think it was about 50-50.
Okay, I mean, I have to do... I mean, from my memory, I think in terms of the performance level, from the season started until the Ipswich game, we probably just about had more good performances than bad performances, I would say. But look, we're in a rot. I mean, what can I say? We're struggling badly with injuries. I just think we need to stick with it. I don't see a new manager coming in and changing anything, unless we could probably bring in a pragmatic manager. Maybe we bring in a manager who would not.
But why does it have to be like? I hear you say this all the time. Like, oh, well, maybe we should bring in a pragmatic. Maybe, yeah, we can bring in a. Why does it have to be a pragmatic manager? Why does it have to be one or the other?
Who should it
why
be
can't why can't we have someone like that focuses both on defensive side of the game and the attacking side of the game? Why does it have to be a really pragmatic?
Defensive side our problem yesterday?
That's one game. You're talking about one game. The defensive.
How's the defensive side been our problem this season?
Well, we conceded 6 goals to Liverpool in the last game. So, yeah, it was definitely a problem in the last game.
In that game, yeah.
And we have conceded. We conceded 3 to Chelsea the game before. We conceded 3 to Manchester United. We have conceded.
Yeah,
and even games...
When we have defenders...
And even games where we're not conceding a lot, like... There's a good chance that we can concede more. Like in that Fulham game, we should have conceded a lot more than we did. Like there's a lot of games this season where we haven't actually conceded that many, but we could have conceded a lot more. Like the Bournemouth game as well. Look at the Bournemouth game.
Okay, there's games where we should have scored more and we didn't. Like that happened. That's football. I think at the when we have our defence, like doesn't have to be first choice. When we have defenders at centre back, like good level defenders who are fit and they're available, and the keeper as well. Our defence has been okay. Our defence has not been a problem.
But Romero hasn't even been good this season, and he's our first choice defender. Everyone was saying that he's been accountable for a lot of goals at that point that we did concede this season.
The numbers speak for itself. Our defensive level has been okay, even when he's been in the team. Whether you think he's individually been good or not, as a unit, we've been okay. Like, it's not saying it's perfect, but we've been a lot better.
So what you're saying, with the highest goal scorers, we were our highest goal scorers in the league before yesterday, where our defensive displays are completely fine. So, I mean, what's wrong with this team then? Or are we a great team then? Because our defensive numbers are great and our goal scoring numbers are great. So we must be an amazing team.
When did I say that?
Well, that's what you're saying. You're saying that our defensive numbers are great. That's what you just said, right?
Before when we have a fully fit defence, they're okay. Didn't say great. They said they were fine. That's what I said.
And we were the top goal scorers in the league up until yesterday. Yeah. So I mean, what you think we're going well this season? Because we haven't been going well this season for pretty much since the Brighton game, pretty much. Right.
I know that. As I said, we're in an absolute rot at the moment. My point is that there's enough for me to tell me that I've seen that I think we can hit a good patch again once we get over these issues, once we get through this what was obviously a very, very challenging period for us. We're absolutely out on our feet at the moment. Once we get through this period, I think things can start to turn around. The question is when, how long do we give it? When can it turn? I don't know the answer to those questions, but I don't see a different manager. My point is, I don't see a different manager coming in and things turning around immediately. And the only point to change it would be for an immediate turnaround, would it not? Otherwise, what's the point, right? You're not going to
immediate and long term, yeah.
Okay, but so if we're the only reason, right? For me, I would justify getting rid of Ange is if you believe that would be better for the long term. If you only think if you're only worried about this short term slump, and you think we need a manager just to steady the ship right now, I don't think there's any point sacking him, because I don't think any manager comes in and starts getting results with the situation we're in at the moment. And even if there is, it's not a manager I don't think a manager could do it playing in a style that we think could probably sustainably, we would want probably here for the long term. You could probably find a pragmatic manager who can get some short-term results. You're bringing Sean Dyche tomorrow, I bet you can probably get some 0-0s, but I don't think that, once we hit smoother waters, I don't think anyone would want him here, so there'd be no point in doing that. But in terms of, do you think a manager can come in and maybe continue with this poor form, but in the long-term view, once we get players back and once we're in a better situation, could get better results than Ange, and it would be worth sacking Ange right now in the hope that this new manager can come in and maybe in the long-term change our results? Yeah, you could do that, but then if we're going to do that, you might as well just see if Ange can do it, in my opinion.
But we've seen so far that Ange hasn't been able to do it.
Hasn't
been able to do it.
Hasn't.
He couldn't. He wasn't be able to do it last season.
He won't be able to do it, but he hasn't been able to do it.
And he hasn't been able to do it this season.
Yeah, he hasn't. But maybe that can still turn. There's still time. There's still a lot to play for. There's still a lot of time left in this season. I'm not saying look, obviously we need a serious turnaround in form. We're still in all the competitions. I'm going to give him the opportunity to fail instead of sacking him right now. That's all I'm saying. If he's going to fail, we'll judge at the end of the season. And if we go out on all the cups and we're still in mid-table come the end of the season, then he'll be judged on that. But right now, it's still everything to play for. So I'm going to give him that opportunity to turn it around.
There is everything to play for, but things are going to start to slip and slide very quickly. And look, I don't want to see Ange get sacked. I don't, because I've said it many a time. I don't like this whole revolving door situation at Tottenham Hotspur. But I do feel, as every game progresses, as we move further and further into the season, we got Liverpool next week in the Carabao Cup semi-final. We get battered in that game like we got battered in the league last week. Then I really believe that his position is getting more and more untenable as the weeks go by.
Well, the longer we stay in this position, of course it is. Why wouldn't it? He's in this position where no one wants us to be in 11th. The longer we're in 11th and the longer we're in that position in the table and the longer these results continue, the pressure's going to build. It's not going to get easier the more we lose games, is it? So I understand that. I'm just going to, for the time being...
But what is the time being? Because we're 1 point above 14th. We're 6 points above Everton and Crystal Palace in 15th and 16th. 8 points above Wolves, who we play on the weekend. And you're looking at our games coming up next. Yeah, tell me where the next win is coming from.
Okay, but tell me what manager's going to start winning games with Basuma and Gray, who's going to play on Sunday. Like, who's going to win games with that back line?
But Basuma and Gray haven't played together yet. This is one game coming up this weekend.
Right, but who's going to win?
We've had Dragoshin and Gray, Dragoshin was poor against Liverpool, but actually Dragoshin and Gray was probably been two of our better players over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but they're still not... Yeah, they've been okay, but they've been okay under the circumstances. I don't think they've been okay compared to what we usually have. Like, we're absolutely struggling at the moment. We're struggling to change the team. We're struggling defensively with the back line that we're putting out at the moment. Our fullbacks have played the most minutes out of anyone. Yeah, that comes with poor squad planning as well. But there's a lot of facets. I don't think a new manager comes in and there's a short-term upswing in results. Basically, I don't think that's realistic. The only reason to change it is if we don't believe Ange is the person long term. So you continue with the short term pain with thinking that in the long term this guy's going to give us more sustainable long term results. Maybe that's the case, but I think right now we still got Ange here, and I think we might as well see if he can do it, because there's the potential upside to that is a lot greater than bringing a new manager where you have to get a new set of players, and it's costly. Sacking another manager mid-season, that's going to cost money, and we have to try and give a new manager new players in January and all these different things. I think it's the better path is just to stick with Ange for the time being. That's my point. I don't see a new manager helping this situation.
You say for the time being, right? But if we do carry on this losing run and then we get battered to Liverpool in the semi-final of the Cup, will you still feel that way?
Would I still feel that he needs time?
Mm-hmm. Will you still say we need to stick with him? Like, would you still say like there's no point sacking him?
Yeah, I would, because we're still in Europa League, still got the FA Cup. Like, I would still stay the course. I'll still stay the course.
All right, look, I kind of feel like I do kind of feel like there is no point sacking him, because I don't feel, I've said it many a time, I don't know what manager will work under this ownership. I don't feel like he's been given the tools in the summer. He's been given teenagers and Dom Solanke. On top of that, he's got a massive injury crisis this year and last year. Is the injury crisis due to the way he plays? I don't know. I don't know what
the only team in the league who play high pressing football.
No, we're not. But are we? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just at a loss for words to know what the next steps are. But all I do know is that
I think the big thing is the recurring injuries. That I think you have to put on. I don't know if it's him or the medical team, but someone has to take responsibility for that. Because Richie, Van der Ven, Romero, Odebear, who else? A lot of players have come back and then got re-injured very quickly, and that is not a coincidence. That can't be a coincidence. I think when it comes to Vicario's injury, things like Bentancur's ban, and there's some things you can't do anything about. But those recurring injuries, like players are coming back and getting re-injured, that is putting a lot of strain on this squad, and that is something that the medical team or someone has to take responsibility for.
But I mean, let's be real. Van der Ven and Romero should never have played that game, and that's on Ange.
Look, if you're a medical team okay, who's Ange to say no? They must.
Well, Ange is the one that said Van der Ven was a risk, and he was only wanted to play him this certain amount of minutes, and he played over those minutes. But if he is a risk at all, don't play him. So that's on Ange, surely.
So Ange, maybe Ange was at fault for that, and maybe Romero's not so sure about Romero, but he said Romero should have been fine. But yeah, Van der Ven, he said, was a bit more risky. He risked it, and we paid the price for it. So maybe Ange has to take responsibility for that. If the medical team told him it's a risk, you shouldn't have played him, for sure. And it cost us, because we look at the position we're in now, for sure.
I just question whether Ange's tactics will ever get consistent results in the Premier League, and I feel like whenever we come up against a certain style of team, it's very hard for us to play against them, no matter of the injuries.
Whenever we come up against a certain style of team, which style of team?
Whether it be a low block team, or whether it be a good five at the back team with like proper wing backs. Like whenever we come up against these kind of teams, we come under pressure and we rarely win the game.
I mean,
is that sustainable? And we know Ange. He might make a few tweaks here and there, but the general basis of his game with the inverting fullbacks and high octane football is never going to change. So if managers, like you say, are getting better and better in the Premier League, other teams getting better and better in the Premier League, they're going to work it. What people are working them out quicker and quicker.
People working them out quicker and quicker. Yeah, I mean at the moment we're struggling to deal with teams' adjustments to us. We're struggling at the moment because we can't even play it looks like at the moment the pressing is not there at the moment. We can't seem to be pressing high as we want to. We're really struggling with that. Clearly, physically, this team are running on empty, I think, it seems, from what I can see. It's very difficult. But are his results sustainable are his results sustainable? I guess we'll have to see. I think they can be. I think we've seen teams play this way and get good results. Like, I think we just need to be able to rotate in the squad.
Who have we seen play this way and get real consistent results?
Klopp. He was very high octane.
Yeah, but look at the team he
Rock
had.
and roll. Yeah, of course, but we need a better team. But at the start, he didn't have a great team, and he
didn't get some consistent results.
Right, but he was, in the top 4. He was challenging for good things.
But are we ever going to get to a level of team at Liverpool?
We're not there. Well, then that's not an Ange problem, though, is it?
I know. I keep saying the ultimate problem at this football club is Daniel Levy. But if you're not going to be able to, and you have no ambitions to get to a team at the level of Liverpool, then you can't play this football.
Why not?
Because you're never going to get consistent results. You're never going to get the results good enough to finish where we want to finish.
We can't play high-octane attacking football unless we have the best players.
Not if we want to finish in the top 4 and win stuff.
What kind of football can we play?
You got to have a manager that's adaptable, that can do both ways, that can play both ways. Against certain teams, you got to drop off a little bit, sit a bit deeper, and then against the teams where you're expected to win, then you play that high octane football. But you can't play the same way every single week. We're not good enough to do that.
That's what we got to strive for. That's the only way to go forward, is to implement that way of playing, and then build on the team that you have. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, it's a long-term thing, but I think that's the journey that we're on at the moment. Clearly, we're at the moment we're struggling, we're failing at the moment, but that's just at the moment. That's hopefully that can start to turn around. But I think the concept of, unless you have the best team, you can't play this way. Because
you can play this way, but not on a consistent basis. But how do we expect to get there? How do we expect to get there on that?
On it. That's how we're going to do it. You've got a lot of young players who are learning this way. They're growing in themselves. Even our more experienced players are still very young. Like not talking about like Vicario and Son. Like even like players who we don't even consider as like young players, like Doggy and Sarr, like and Van der Ven. These are mainstays in the team, and they're also very, very young players. They're also in their second season in the Premier League. It's like there's even in general in terms of like high-level football, they're still very, very early on in their careers. Even Vicario wasn't even like a main goalkeeper in Serie A up until like just before he joined us. So like these are players all growing in their own careers at certain points. Like this is all going to take time. And at the moment, in the moment we are now, we are absolutely struggling to turn this form around, and for a myriad of different reasons. That's where we are at the moment. But doesn't mean we should abandon everything. In my opinion, I think just keep the course, see if you can turn it around. Look, come the end of the season or whatever, if there's a certain point where it's clear that we have to go, this is not the direction we should be going in, then I think at that point, I think for me it's like the end of the season. Once if we failed in all the cups and we're nowhere in the league and the project there's nothing to believe in, then you go in a different direction. But right now, I think you just got to stick with it because that's the path we're on.
All right. Well, that is our